welcome back again to Cash Motive, and in this video what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you 4 keys that can help you turn your life around. These 4 things are things that are really holding you back from taking your life to that next level, from turning your life around, from getting your health to where it needs to get to, from getting out of that really toxic environment that you're in, from getting from where you are right now to earning the kind of money that you want, to getting into the kind of career that you desire for yourself, to be able to produce a kind of freedom that you require. If those are some of the things that you're requiring, are wanting from your life, and you just don't know how to do it, let me give you some of the 4 things that are going to be, I can almost guarantee you are one of these things you're not doing, because in part one of these things is holding you back. I'd love to hear from you, by the way. If you like this video, I'd comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you like this video in the end, I'd ask you to subscribe to Cash Motive, my channel, because I want to keep sending you more of this stuff. I want you to be able to get to that next level. I want you to be able to have that freedom, to be able to go and have the cars, the lifestyle, the kind of traveling, the experiences that you desire out of your life. And so I want to keep helping you and elevating you to get to that next level in your life. So let me share with you these 4 keys. The first thing that I would share with you, and I would ask you to really think about, and whether you've really done what you need to do in this particular area, is about giving up and making sacrifices. So many times, many of us are trapped from getting ahead and changing our life because what we want is out there, but we want to take absolutely everything with us. You know, I spent a lot of time climbing mountains. One of my goals in life is to climb Mount Everest, and so I constantly have had to climb several mountains up all around the world, Mount Kilimanjaro and loads of mountains in England, and Aconcagua in Argentina, to try and train to be able to climb Mount Everest. And it takes a period of time, and I don't want to die, and so as a result I want to take my time with it and get the experience and get the knowledge and get the stamina and the body ready. And because it costs so much money, you know, to climb Everest is about £38,000, so I don't want to get there and not to be able to do it. And that's why I want to climatize my body and get my body to such a state and my mind to such a state that when I do go there and I spend that kind of money, I actually end up achieving my objective. Because I don't know whether you know very much about Mount Everest, but there is a reason why it's called attempting to climb Mount Everest. It doesn't say you climb Mount Everest. It's actually called you attempt to climb Mount Everest, because so many people go there unprepared, the weather isn't right, all sorts of things can happen. And so I want to ensure that everything's within my favor. And because I've been climbing a lot of mountains, one of the things that you learn is that the higher up the mountain is and the higher up you want to go, the less things that you can take with you. And the same principle applies to even things like aeroplanes. The faster an aeroplane wants to go, the higher an aeroplane wants to go, the less stuff it can take with it. The bigger the payload, the harder it is for that same object to continue accelerating and progressing to its destination. Eventually it will run out of gas, or it will run out of fuel and end up stopping. And it's the same with us. You must understand that if you continue trying to drag everything with you and take the people with you and take the same thinking with you and take the past with you, you can't continue to drag all these things and still believe that you are going to be able to progress and still believe that you're going to be able to achieve success. And so I would ask you, what are you prepared to give up? Are you prepared to give up watching television? Are you prepared to give up some of the friends that you have? Are you prepared to give up some of the beliefs that you have? Are you prepared to give up some of the habits and the lifestyles that you've developed? I remember going back to when I found myself £9,000 in debt, and I was done drink driving. two things that I had to give up was, one, I had to give up alcohol, because alcohol was part of the reason why I'd got myself in debt, and I loved alcohol. And the second thing that I had to give up is I actually had to give up that lifestyle of constantly going out, partying, traveling, going to Ibiza, going to Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol, and that kind of lifestyle, always doing some sort of event. I had to give that up in order to move forward, in order to progress my life, because the moment that I basically gave up and put aside all those things that kind of lifestyle that I'd been living, it allowed me room to be able to actually be able to allow more things into my life. To give this a metaphor for you, it's a bit like having a cup which is already full. You cannot put any more in a cup. And so the way to which you can fill up a cup again, which is to actually empty some of that cup out. And for me, that's what I found. And I think so many of us, we're struggling because we're just not prepared to let go. We're not prepared to let go of who we are. We say that this is how I've always been, Kasim. This is the person I am. This is my story. This is what I've always been brought up to do. This is the way I think. I don't like the way you think. I don't like your perspective. And I'm like, well, how is that working out for you? And it isn't working out for you. And so I would really encourage you, because I want you to do well. I want you to be able to get some of the things that you want, to start giving some things up, start making sacrifices. Because if you don't make the sacrifices, you're trying to break fundamental laws, which is that, you can't move forward. If you have a car, you should know this anyway. This is basic stuff. If you have a car and you fill that car up with loads of passengers, and you fill it up with loads of luggage, that car is going to use up more fuel as it goes along. It's not going to be able to travel as far. But if that car has you in it and it has no luggage in it, it will be able to actually travel further. And so if you can start to take off some of the things that you have in your life, your attitudes, your belief systems, some of the people you have in your life, your habits, guess what's going to happen? You're going to become lighter. You've got to let go of some of the things that have happened to you in the past, the shame, the guilt, because it will allow you to be able to hold your hands out to your destiny instead of always having one hand out to your future and one hand behind you. I hope that helps you out. The second thing that I would share with you is that you need to change your perspective. And what I mean by perspective is that you need to change the way you think. You see, most of us, and I talk about myself and I talk from experience here, we're trapped by the fact that the way we see things is what is stopping us from progressing. You see, so many of us, we find ourselves in situations, we find ourselves in circumstances, having done and made errors in judgment and made the wrong decisions, and got our life to where we don't really want it. We've perhaps neglected our health. We found ourselves in a job where we just absolutely hate the job. Like me, you may find yourself that you're in debt. You're constantly living for the weekend, where you get paid, and at the end of 2 weeks before you actually end up getting paid, you run out of money and you're left with like 30 quid, and 30 quid has to last you 2 weeks. And that kind of lifestyle, you're just tired of it. And actually, in reality, it is your fault, because you are the one who's been using the money, making the decisions about this. And I came to the profound realization that two people can have the same situation but see the same situation completely different. And I believe that so many of us, what stops us from moving is the fact that we are so tunnel visioned. We only have our perspective. We only see the world from our point of view, not realizing that if we can get different people's points of views, ideas, get other people to help us, get other people's advice, get other strategies, it allows us to see, as most successful people understand, to change the way we think about the same thing. You see, you cannot move forward, you cannot go up without changing the way that you think. And so what I want you to understand is that if you want to progress, if you want to move up, if you want more success, if you want to be able to move your life to areas and have that you've never had and have an extraordinary kind of life, you have to begin to change the way you think. You have to begin to change, in other words, the way in which you see the specific situations in your life. Because as I say, two people can have the same father and their father was a smoker. We expedite their lives forward and meet them 20 years later, and one of them smokes and the other one doesn't. We ask the one that smokes, why do you smoke? And they say, because my father smoked. And we ask the other one, why don't you smoke? And the other one says, because my father smoked. Same situation, but a very different perspective. One was driven not to do it and the other one was driven to do it. And so what I want you to understand, and is really, really important, is you need to get ideas. You need to start meeting people. You need to get other people's experience. That means you need to be reading books. You need to be going to seminars. You need to be going to mosques, synagogues. You need to be reading the Bible. You need to be reading the Quran. You need to be going to religious areas where wise people are. Join forums. Do whatever you need to do to get other people's perspectives, because the point is, at the moment, you're stuck because the way in which you're seeing your situation is just from your perspective. But if you can begin to see the world from other people's perspectives, to see, well, what would they do if they were in the same situation as me? Well, what have they done to overcome? What have other people done to overcome these same situations? Guess what? That's how your life begins to make progress. That's how you begin to change your life and start making the steps to go in the direction of your dreams, of your vision, of your better future. So that second thing is, you need to change your perspective. You need to change the way you think, the way you're seeing the same things that are happening in your life. The third thing that I would share with you is that you need to stop trying to be average. When I first started studying successful individuals, I basically wanted to know, look, what seems to be the problem here? Why is it that so many people want to progress, so many people want to be happy, so many people want to be healthy, so many people want to be wealthy, so many people want to be in great careers, and yet so many of them don't want to do it? Are not achieving these things that they want, even though they're good people, they're hardworking people, they're kind people, they do the best that they can. What is it that keeps happening? What I basically discovered is that most people are trying to go for the middle class. They're trying to go for average. They're trying to go for what's normal. And what's normal is a bit like getting into the ocean and having your head just above the water. Guess what usually happens? I found that any time your head is just above the water, when disaster hits, it hits you the worst. I was talking to a friend of mine and I was explaining to her, and I asked her these questions. I said to her, if you're in a relationship, in an average relationship, and something went wrong, what are the chances that that relationship is going to end? And she says, well, there is a very likely chance. And I said to her, well, if you are in an amazing relationship and something were to go wrong, I don't know, you disagree with each other or whatever, someone cheats or something like that, what are the chances, and I was just genuinely speaking here, what are the chances that you're more likely to stay with your partner if something like that happens? You know, and she was like, well, if it was a great relationship, then I probably will have to consider it and I'd have to think about it. And that's the point. I found that every single thing, everything in the middle, everything which is in the normal, always suffers the most. If you look at society, the people who are in the middle class are the ones that suffer the most. If you look at relationships, the people who have average relationships are the ones who have the most heartache, the most problems. The ones who have great relationships, it doesn't matter if their partner does something wrong or upsets them, they don't really particularly care, because they're seeking to have that great relationship and they've built up such a foundation that it doesn't matter. Guess what? If you are somebody who has who's earning an average amount of money, when things go wrong, when the economy goes wrong, guess what? You're going to be the one that's worst hit. Why? Because your head is just above the water. If you've got loads and loads of money and something bad happens, guess what? Even if it hits you, at least you've got such a reserve that it doesn't matter. And so what I would encourage you to do is to stop trying to be average, because every single time you try to be average, we live in a world where we go through seasons. There are good days, there are bad days. There's the economy crashes, the political parties change, you've got Brexit, you've got oil prices have changed, all sorts of things happen in the economy and in the world. And you must understand that if you're just above the water, if you're just above the line or you're just average, you're always going to end up doing worse. And that is one of the major problems. So you have got to stop trying to seek going for average. Stop seeking trying to be normal. Stop seeking trying to be just okay, and start seeking greatness, world class, high performance, the very best, perfection, all that you can achieve. Because when you shoot for the moon, even if you don't end up getting to the moon, at least you will be among the stars. You know, that kind of makes sense to you, I think, doesn't it? But basically, you know, I was using a metaphor. I was explaining as an example to a friend of mine, and what I was basically trying to explain to her was, look, ultimately, if I was saying to her, you know what, I was explaining to her about what happens when you are running for something. And I was saying, look, what happens if you're trying to run for something or trying to catch the bus or trying to catch a train? The closer you get to it, what usually happens? You begin to slow down the closer you get to it. And so that's what happens for so many of us. So many of us, because we're going for average, we don't end up hitting average. We actually hit, instead of hitting a 5, what we actually end up hitting is a 3, because as we get towards a 3 and the 4, we actually begin to slow down. So we're not really actually even average. We're below average for most of us. Most of us, our health is not average. It's actually below average. It's a 4. It's not a 5, because we just... Do you get where I'm going with this? So I would highly recommend to you that in order to progress, in order to take your life to that next level, in order to change your life, stop going for average and start seeking to be great, to achieve brilliance, to achieve excellence. That, my friend, will allow you to turn your life around. The last thing that I would share with you is to take full responsibility and stop complaining. Stop bitching, stop moaning, stop telling everybody about how life has been unfair to you, about how it is that you're being treated unfairly, and take responsibility for your life. You must understand that human beings, we've been given the dignity of choice. We have the power to actually change the course of our lives. We could have made loads of mistakes for the first 20 years of our lives and go on to live an incredible kind of life for the rest of our life. Why? Because we have choice. We can choose. We're not trees. We're not animal. We're not like the geese. Geese can only fly south in the winter. They have no choice. They're driven by what is called an instinctive code. But human beings, we can change the course of our lives. You do understand that, right? Because when you understand that, then you understand that you also have the power to change your life. You also understand that you have the power to literally become more, to develop, to take your life to another level, to learn skills, to develop some of the gifts that you already have. And when you begin to do those things, now your life begins to change. Now your life begins to actually start moving forward. So many people are reactive and are not creating. We're not people who are always, so many of us are always responding, and we're not actually out there fighting. If you are constantly on the defensive, waiting for things to happen, waiting for people to help you, that means you're not in charge. That means you're in a car and you're being driven around. You could end up anywhere. You could end up in a destination which you don't want to be in if you're not very careful. And so taking responsibility is one of the most difficult things that any of us has to do. And the day that you take responsibility is a day that your life changes, because now the power is in your hands. Now you can grow, you can learn, you can develop, you can get people to help you. I try to explain to people that what you want to be is the underdog, not the victim. Let me explain. The underdog is a kind of individual who is messed up, has fucked up, has neglected their health for months, has got themselves in debt, has made errors in judgment, but is happy to improve, wants help, is happy to change who they are, is happy to get new perspectives, is happy to take on new tasks, is happy to move. The victim is a person who has had exactly the same things. They've made the errors, but say, well, it isn't my fault. I'm not changing. Well, it was that person's fault. Well, it wasn't. Nobody wants to help a victim, but everybody will go out of their way to help an underdog. We all want to support somebody who wants help, somebody who is open to listening to our advice, to somebody who desires to change their life. But when you desire to change your life, but you don't want to change, but you don't want to listen to anything that anyone says, but you don't want to accept that anything has been your fault, and all you keep doing is blame, 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 even if I give you strategies, guess what? You're not going to do anything with them because it isn't your fault. And you do not believe that you have the power to change your life. And that's where so many people are stuck. They're just pointing. My boss always used to say to me that, Kasim, every time you point the finger at somebody else, remember there are 4 other fingers pointing back at you, meaning these ones over here. And so I would encourage you to look at your life and start to ask yourself the question, have I really taken responsibility? I get it. I can't control what somebody else has done to me. I get it. I've made errors in judgment. But have you accepted your role in your life? Have you accepted the role that you have played to get your life to where it currently is? Because most people believe that they've been the passengers to their life. They believe they've made no decisions at all to get their life to where they've got to. You see, the day that my life changed was the day that I made a decision and I decided, actually, it was my fault. Actually, I did fuck up. Actually, I genuinely did make errors in decision, like errors in judgment. I did make some decisions that, yes, were wrong. Yes, I kind of knew that I shouldn't make them, but I was weak at the time. But I accepted it. I said, fine, it wasn't my fault. When I did that, it gave me so much power. It gave me self-belief in myself. Because then, when people were like, hey, Cass, try this. Hey, Cass, listen to these motivational videos. Hey, Cass, go and speak to that person because they might be able to give you some advice. Hey, Cass, watch that YouTube video. Hey, Cass, go and look on that website. Guess what? I then had the power and the will to go and check these things, which began to move my life forward. So that's the last thing that I would share with you. Take responsibility for your life, in your health, with your income, with your relationship. If you can do those 4 things, you will begin to see dramatic, and I quite literally mean dramatic, steps towards your better future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that the video has been of some value to you. Once again, comment below, do you like what I said? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have some of these worked for you? I'd love to hear from you. Also, subscribe to Casimotive so that I can keep sending you more of these videos so that you can become your highest, fullest expression of yourself. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.